my work is not going to be the only thing which defines me as a person. Never say no to work. But until and unless you actually go about doing it, you're never really going to know if this is something what you really, really like. You're only as good as your team. I would say about a year back, if you had asked me the same question, I would have said, Priyanka, hey, look, I call for a biryani. Or, I'll go out for a drink on a Friday evening or something like that.
Yeah.
But I've realized that in the longer scheme of things, none of that is really helping me.
The unhealthy side of 4 a.m. club, right? I used to wake up to opening a laptop
Correct.
and catching up on emails.
Waking up early is a choice. Going to bed early is a choice.
Yes.
Eating healthier is a choice. Are you making choices which are serving you, or are you making choices which are serving everyone else at the cost of you?
How do we create cultures that aren't just productive, but genuinely transformative for the people in them? I'm not referring to quick wins and surface level strategies. I'm talking about deep, intentional change that aligns leadership, well-being, and purpose. Welcome to Unplug with Priyanka, a space where we dive deep into what truly drives happiness at work. I'm Priyanka Gidwani, a leadership and happiness coach, and through this podcast, I aim to spark meaningful conversations that inspire a happier, more fulfilling workplace for all. Joining us on this episode is Pratik Mehta, the Chief Human Resource Officer at Mahindra Susten Mahindra Teqo, and a leader with an unmatched ability to connect strategy with empathy. With a career spanning roles at Deloitte, Mahindra Leadership University, and KPMG, Pratik has mastered the art of driving culture change, fostering inclusive workplaces, and embedding resilience in teams. Today, we'll uncover his unique perspectives on building thriving people-first organizations. Hi Pratik, welcome to Unplug with Priyanka. I'm excited to have you today with me.
Thank you so much, Priyanka. Very, very excited to be out here.
So Pratik, I've known you now for 3 years, but it feels like I've known you forever.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I want to start with your experience that you've had in consulting, right? We all know that the consulting environment is a very high pressure environment. But in my view, I think it comes with its own learnings, right? And it gives you a lot of opportunities as well to grow. So I want to know from you, having done 15 years, what has been your experience and what are those lessons that you've learned in that time or during that time, which has shaped your career?
So let me begin by saying that I've had a chance to work with three iconic organizations within the consulting space. I started my career with KPMG, and that was in the London office. I eventually moved to KPMG Mumbai. From there, I moved on to Hay Group in India.
Okay.
And then finally, I closed my career. I closed my consulting career with Deloitte in India. And I think each organization has been simply brilliant. The underlying theme, which I have always found to be true of consulting, is that it is a lot of hard work. And you need to get in with your eyes open. At the early stage of your career, it seems very glamorous. You're always on a plane, you're always traveling to an exotic location, or at least it seems like it. And you start thinking that this is the lifestyle I particularly aspire to, right? And it's a lot of fun for the first few years of your career. But over the longer term, you need to realize that in consulting, there is always going to be one project after another, after another, after another. And therefore, there's a lot of hard work associated with it. You have to be very conscious about the fact that is this the lifestyle which you want to choose, right? Having said that, I also found this part of my journey to be extremely rewarding.
Right.
I think it gave me a significant career acceleration. And I learned some very, very powerful lessons in life. The most important one being never say no to work.
Okay.
We assume that, this is the sort of work which I'd like to do. This is the sort of work which I would not like to do. But until and unless you actually go about doing it, you're never really going to know if this is something what you really, really like. The biggest example for me was, I think very early on in my career, I thought areas such as leadership development or behavioral sciences is not my cup of tea.
Okay.
Maybe I want to focus on organization structuring or manpower planning and so on. But later on in my career in consulting, when I did start doing projects in this space, I realized that I actually like it a lot, so much
Okay.
so that I want to make a career out of it.
Absolutely. And that's what you did, I
Exactly,
think.
right? So the first big lesson which came for me is don't say no to work, because you never know what's the sort of experience you're going to have, and it may actually be a career changing experience for you.
Right.
The second big experience I learned in consulting is you're only as good as your team.
Right.
As you grow higher up the ranks in consulting, a lot of the work is done by your team members, your colleagues. You are playing the role of a team leader, and your credibility, your ability to deliver impact to the client is highly dependent on how good your team is able to perform. And therefore, never take it for granted. I mean, never take your team for granted. Never assume that just because you're in a certain position or in a certain designation, you've become the cat's whiskers. It's actually your team which is the cat's whiskers, which has enabled you to come into this particular place, right?
Yes.
So
They're doing all the research and doing all the groundwork.
exactly.
Yes.
So never lose that sense of gratefulness and that sense of you know thankfulness for your team members, because I think they are the ones who have really brought you out there, right? That's the second learning lesson. And then the third learning lesson is that you are going to have to work very hard. There are no two ways about it. There is no shortcut in consulting,
Yeah.
right? And don't shy away from putting in those hard yards. I believe that if you put in the effort, you really put in that resilience around your projects, around and you really show that sort of customer centricity or client centricity,
Right.
you can truly create some meaningful work, right? You can really create work which is going to create such a lot of impact for your clients, and that's very rewarding to see. So don't shy away from putting in the hard yards. Don't shy away from going that particular extra mile to make sure that you're able to create that environment of delight for your clients.
Right.
And believe me, there is no better feeling than your client coming up to you and saying that, hey, look, I think this is magnificent
Fabulous.
work, right?
Yes.
We wouldn't have been able to do it without you guys.
Right.
So those were my three big lessons which I took away from consulting.
Yeah. And how did you manage this team really? There will be, you get a mix of people in your team. Some want to go that extra mile, like you said, and put in the long hours, and some don't. And how do you then distribute the work amongst your team, or you motivate them to sort of deliver for that project?
Look, at the end of the day, it's really helping your team members understand what's the big picture all about. Um, there are two elements to it. One element is helping my own team members understand that why are we doing this, right? If you are task focused and task oriented about something, ye bana do, wo bana do, it's not going to motivate anyone.
Right.
But if you help a team member realize the big picture around it, it's a game changer for them. So I was just before I stepped out of consulting, I was working for a very large oil and gas company, and we had nearly a 30-member team deployed on this particular project. Look, by consulting standards, that's a very large team, right? And we were creating different types of e-learning modules for them.
Okay.
That is not the most exciting work, creating a particular e-learning module. And if you look at it only from a work point of view and say, hey, you need to create one module after another, it's going to demotivate you after a period of time. You're
Absolutely
going to get
boring.
bored. Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you actually tell them that, look, guys, in the Asia Pacific region, nobody has been able to do this. There hasn't been a client who's created this repository of know-how and knowledge
Especially
within
in
that.
the oil and gas space.
Correct. Yeah. And we are getting a chance to be a part of it, and we are getting a chance to create all of it, and we're going to get a chance to impact the lives of more than 20,000 people just by the work which we're doing. Then that's a very different narrative than saying that here is an e-learning module which you need to work on.
Yeah.
So what's the narrative which you're working with your team on? Are you showing them the big picture? Are you taking them along that, along the way and saying that here is a difference you are going to make? Or are you telling them that, hey, Friday tak ye kar lo, right? And when you start shifting the lens, when you start shifting the narrative, you realize that the outputs which you get are also fundamentally very, very different. To the second part of your question, not everyone wants to put in the same amount of effort.
Yeah.
You're right. Everyone doesn't want to put in the same amount of effort. And my job is to not judge someone just because they want to work X number of hours and someone wants to work Y number of hours. I wouldn't do that. What we're looking at for is outcomes.
Right.
Are you able to achieve a certain set of outcomes, right? And you do it at your own pace, but are you able to do it in the time frame which is
because
required from a
ultimately there
delivery?
are client deliverables, right? So
Exactly, right? And as long as you're able to meet those outcomes, it shouldn't matter how you meet them. You are welcome to pace those outcomes in a manner in which it best works for you, right?
So basically, give them the flexibility with
Absolutely.
clarity on the outcomes as to what is
Absolutely.
expected.
Look, during COVID, my team was completely distributed all over the country. I had a colleague who was based in Nainital,
Okay.
enjoying the lake view and also delivering the work.
Lovely.
And I was like, that's perfectly fine. If this is what works best for you, if this is what's allowing you to deliver the best output, go for it.
Yeah.
Right? At the same time, I'm someone who enjoys being at home with my 3 dogs and doing my work.
Yeah.
Right? And that's what really brings out the best levels of productivity in me. And that's what I did.
Yeah.
Right? So whatever works best for you, let's make it happen. And if that version of you can deliver some great client impact, then why wouldn't I want you to have that particular environment to flourish in?
Yeah. Interesting. So you would have had various coping mechanisms as well. You did touch upon some bit of it now with your dogs, but what were the other coping mechanisms in these environments which are high pressured? It's now not only consulting, Pratik. All organizations are moving towards growth, and therefore there's high pressure in the office, right? So what are some of the coping mechanisms that have helped you? Like for example, for me, mindfulness walks have made a difference, right? Going outdoor in the middle of the work, just take a break, go outside, see the lovely environment, some trees, some sounds, sort of take that in, come back to your job, right? So, what have been some of your coping mechanisms which have helped you work under these pressured environments?
So I have three coping mechanisms which I use, but I think back in the day I also had a set of unhealthy coping mechanisms, and I'll
Okay.
also touch on that. What I do right now when I get stressed out, or even if I'm not stressed, but something which I do as practice is I make it a point to focus a lot on my physical and mental well-being.
Okay.
So my day starts at 4:30 in the morning
Wow.
until about 7:38. It's my personal space.
Wow.
I'll either go for a run or I'll go for a workout.
Okay.
I will make it a point to spend time with my kids.
Okay.
Like I said, I have three dogs, and
Yeah.
I call them my kids. So I do make it a point to spend time with them. I will have breakfast at home,
Okay.
right, to a large extent, and it's only after that I'm going to start my work day.
Right.
What that does is it just by having that defined non-work related routine, I'm able to set my day up in a particular way where
Yeah.
I come in with a elevated mood. So that's the one thing which I'll do prior to work. During work hours, I tend to listen to a lot of music. I find it very calming.
Absolutely.
And you're going to have a day which is going to be full of ups and downs.
Yeah.
But you do need to have control over the contours of your day.
Yeah.
So I do make it a point to actually listen to music every day, and a lot of music. So if you ever come into my cabin, there'll always be something playing.
Something
out there,
playing. Yeah.
right? And then the third thing which I'll do is every evening, I try and go for a walk again.
Okay.
Because it's just like you said, right? This is a mindfulness walk. It's just a way for me to decompress.
Yeah. After the day's work.
Exactly,
Yeah.
right? I've come back home. I want to just decompress a little bit. And instead of watching a Netflix or something of that nature, I would rather just be a little bit more outdoors. Try and get fresh air in if I can. Go in for a walk or something like that. Because I just feel that it really helps me balance things out.
Yeah.
Having said that, I wasn't always like this. This is more recent for me.
None of us were always like
Exactly,
this. We've all
right?
learned. Yes.
We've all learned the lessons the hard way, and these 3 lessons also came in through the hard way.
Yeah.
I would say about a year back, if you had asked me the same question, I would have said, Priyanka, hey, look, I call for a biryani. Or, I'll go out for a drink on a Friday evening or something
Yes.
like that.
Yeah.
But I've realized that in the longer scheme of things, none of that is really helping me.
Yeah. It
It's
doesn't.
actually slowing me down. And that's not the space where I want to be in anymore. So these are some of the practices which I use just to, relax.
So I'm also from the 4 a.m. club actually. I do like to wake up early and I can actually. There are many who can't. So I'm from that 4 a.m. club. But exactly what you said, I was absolutely the unhealthy side of 4 a.m. club, right? I used to wake up to opening a laptop
Correct.
and catching up on emails and just stressing ourselves right from the minute you wake up until the time you're sleeping, you're watching your. So I was completely from that space. But you're right, you have to start creating your own space and your own personal time, which also I have done now. But I completely get it. And I worry for the ones who are not the 4 a.m. clubs, right? Who can't wake up in the morning and they wake up and straight have to get into work. So I guess they will have to find some other coping mechanisms on in the middle of the day, in the middle of work, or like you said, at the end of the day, instead of watching Netflix, find that time space for yourself.
It's interesting we use the word coping mechanisms. I think coping is something which happens to us when you don't take control of your own life.
Yeah.
And then you're coping with what life has thrown
with
at you.
whatever's coming your way. Yeah.
And my sincere most advice to people is always that take control of your life.
Yeah.
It's a choice, right? Waking up early is a choice. Going to bed early is a choice.
Yes.
Eating healthier is a choice. Are you making choices which are serving you, or are you making choices which are serving everyone else at the cost of you?
Yes, that's a good one. Yeah.
Right? And I have been in that space where I have made choices which have served everyone else but me. And I've realized that it comes with a very high price tag, which I only have to pay.
Yeah.
Nobody else does.
Yeah.
So I thought, why not try for a change, a set of choices which work in my favor. Right? And I've realized that it enables me to be a lot more happier, and I'm able to engage better with people. I'm able to do my work better. I'm able to be a better partner. And that is actually extremely satisfying.
So since you spoke about happy and the theme of my podcast is happiness, there's a lot that goes around nowadays. It's a very hot topic, future of work, future of work. So my question is, what is the future of happy work in your view? Just want to hear your perspective on how can you create environments which are happy environments at the workplace.
Look, really two things which come to my mind. One is really creating a culture of care. Okay. Instead of having a range of policies and processes around engagement and so on and so forth, right? And all of that is important. Do you actually show up and offer care to your colleagues?
Right.
And care is something which is very fluid. It's not easily defined, but it can be something as small as checking in on a colleague and saying that, hey, how's it going? Are you doing all right? Right?
Just that small check-in. Yeah.
Just a small check-in. It means sometimes just asking your colleague that look, I'm seeing you work since morning. You don't seem to have taken a break. Have you had a chance to grab some food? Or if people are working late in office, if you know your team is working late in office, just checking in with them and saying, can I send you some dinner?
Yeah. Can I just order in something? Yes.
Yeah. Can I just order in our dinner, or can I call for a coffee for you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or things of that nature. It's just the small human elements. Of course, we will put in place a certain set of policies. Of course, we'll put in place a certain set of processes. We will have a EAP provider and so on, right? But beyond that, are you humanizing that sort of a touch as well?
Are you showing that empathy in the small stuff on a daily basis? I think that's what will make the difference.
And I think that really means a lot. That really makes you show up as a leader who's also another human being.
Yes.
Going through the same sort of vulnerabilities and challenges and situations like everyone else is.
Yeah.
And I think that really matters a lot.
Yeah.
The other thing which I also tell people about a happy workplace has got nothing to do with the workplace. And it's got to do with their own identity.
Right.
How do you see yourself as a human being and as a person? How do you see yourself? Do you let your work be the only thing which defines you?
Right.
It's great to be passionate about your work. I mean, I love the work which I do. But my work is not going to be the only thing which defines me as a person.
Or makes me happy.
Exactly. is an important part of my life which makes me happy, but it is not the only thing which brings happiness to my life.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
My running brings me a lot of happiness.
Absolutely.
Me spending time with my kids brings me a lot of happiness. Me spending time with my family, my friends, pursuing certain hobbies, right, brings me a
Yeah.
lot of happiness. And I'd like all of that to be the definition of what happiness means for me. So happiness at workplace sometimes means proactively looking outside the workplace.
To find that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and if
Yeah.
you are a happier person, you are going to bring that energy to the table when you come back into the workplace as well.
Absolutely. Yes. Bring that whole self to
Exactly.
work.
And
Yes.
you are going to create a happier work environment for yourself, for your colleagues. You're going to be a lot more productive.
Yeah.
So happiness doesn't have to come at the cost of your work. If anything, it can actually be highly productive for your work.
I think you should also find ways to integrate it, you know.
Absolutely.
Sometimes you may want to do, or your hobby or something that you want to do may come in the middle of the day, right? You might want to take that time off, talk to your manager,
Yeah.
saying that, 4 to 6 in the evening I want to do this, and that's the only time I'm getting to go for this class. Can I go for that, and then after 6 come back and finish my work, right? So I think the people need to find a way to integrate it into work, instead of looking at it separately and talking about work life balance and happiness at work. I think it's all can be integrated into one, in my view.
And instead of using classical means to measure a person's worth by saying are you or are you not in
In
office,
office, yes, 10 hours a
why
day.
don't you measure them on the quality of outcomes they deliver to you?
Yeah.
And I think that's so fundamentally important, because what that does is you are still getting the output which you want, but at the same time, you are giving that space to that individual to pursue interests which are deeply meaningful to them.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I don't think there is anything wrong in it,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
right? Like a very dear friend of mine enjoys origami,
Okay.
and for him, origami is something which he likes to practice during the workday because it essentially helps him
Yeah.
decompress. So he takes 30 minutes in his lunchtime where he actually, he'll end up making a duck or a crane or any of those,
Something. Yeah. Something.
just because as a means it makes him happier. And I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, go for it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Absolutely go for it. As long as it's not coming in between what you need to be delivering, you should actively do
Yeah.
things which
Yeah.
are, going
Absolutely.
to uh, make you better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what difference will it make, if something is sent to you half an hour later because he did this, it's not going to make much of a difference.
Look, I'm not in favor of timelines being dropped.
Yeah. I
So let me,
agree.
yeah,
Yeah.
let me be candid about that. I'm not in favor of that. I believe that you should live up to your commitments.
Right.
If you've made a commitment, then you are honor bound and duty bound to make sure that those commitments are fulfilled.
Okay.
At the same time, your greatest commitment is to yourself, right? And if you feel that there are instances and moments in a day where you're going through something, you should have that conversation with your colleague or your manager or so on and say that, hey, look, something's going on. I may not want to talk about what's going on, but something's going on and I need a little bit of time and space.
Yes.
So are you okay to create that for me?
Yeah.
And I think that's a very fair, honest conversation to have. Right?
And that really helps everyone, the
Absolutely.
organization, the project that you're working on. And yeah, I agree.
Look, leaders are human beings as much as anyone else.
Yeah.
And I see no reason why a leader would not be okay with someone saying that, hey, look, I need a little bit of more time to close this, or I need a little bit of personal space because I'm going through something. Because goes without saying, every one of us goes through something or
Yeah.
the other.
Yeah.
So we're more than happy to create that space for
Yeah.
people,
Yeah.
provided that we know about it.
Yeah. And then they assure you that, the
Yeah,
project will be done on time.
absolutely.
And it's just that I need this little time.
And you have to start with trust. You have to sort of trust your
Yeah.
colleagues and say that, hey, totally get it, right? Take the time you need. And I trust that things are going to fall into place eventually, both for
Yeah.
you personally as well as the work which you need to get done.
Yeah. So, Pratik, I know you're very passionate about development of people and investing in them. to grow them into organizations. You've also led the Mahindra Leadership University at the group, right? And in your earlier role, I want to know about your journey there and your view on how to develop people so that they have long careers with you.
Fair. Uh, MLU, as we fondly call it, has been one of the most rewarding periods of my career. I took that role immediately after I stepped out of consulting,
Right.
and for 5 years prior to, in my final 5 years rather than consulting, I was almost exclusively focused on leadership development.
Okay.
So in a way, moving to MLU was almost like a natural progression. Being a service provider to organizations to
Organizations.
actually being the purchaser of services, as well as creating programs, right? Uh, and MLU has been a phenomenal journey, because at the time when I joined the group office, MLU had a certain um, had a certain ability to deliver, right? We had limited number of programs.
Right.
We didn't have really a strong digital platform in place, and so on. Rusbe Rani at that time, and another colleague of mine, Shibu David, right? They were the ones who had actually hired me into MLU, and they said that, look, Pratik, here is an opportunity to think about this as a white canvas.
Right.
You can choose to paint it the way you want to,
Right.
and the only ask which we have out of you is, can we make it best in class? Can we make it one of the top 2 to 3 corporate universities within the region, right? So that was the mandate which I had been given. And it's actually been a phenomenal journey, because it started us by saying, okay, can we just try doing one program,
Okay.
right? To eventually, when I moved out of MLU, we had an inventory of nearly 70 programs which we were
Wow.
running. And since then it's actually grown
Much more.
even more.
Yes. Yes.
Heartening for me to see, as I've stepped outside of MLU, to see that the manner in which it's growing.
Yes.
But the initial few months, the initial 6 months, were also the most challenging few months at that point in time,
Right.
because we needed to really set the strategy of that particular institution. Always we've had a physical place located in Nasik, and
Yes.
that is still incredibly important for us. But at the same time, we also needed to be cognizant of the fact that traveling to a location is not going to be easy, right? So instead of you going to MLU, can we make MLU come to you?
Right.
So that was one big mental shift which we had to make.
So I recall you went around meeting people to understand what each of those businesses sort of really need. And I think it must have been an amazing experience for you because you got to work across industries. I remember you've also worked in the hospitality,
Correct.
creating a program for resort managers. You've done some design thinking for HR. So it's been amazing,
Yeah.
right? And therefore, I think I want to hear more about what were the challenges initial years, and how did you
See,
sort of navigate?
when we started off on this journey, uh, there were a couple of things that you wanted to keep in mind, right? We didn't want to do everything, and therefore it became important to make sure that we are not overlapping with what the learning teams of the various sectors are doing in any case. And let's understand that each of the Mahindra Group companies have learning and development teams which are extremely accomplished, right? You take our AFS business,
Yes.
holidays,
Yeah.
financial services, so on and so forth. Each one of them has learning leaders
Yes.
and CHROs who are very passionate about that particular area, and each one of them have been doing some brilliant work out there. So you don't want to create a overlapping program which they are already doing.
Right.
Rather, you would go in and ask them that, look, what is it that I can do for you? Instead of treating them as a stakeholder, start treating them as clients.
Right.
When you shift your mindset from saying you're my colleague to saying you're my client, you will start listening to them more, and you'll start recognizing that what can I do to service my client's need.
Right.
So that was step one for us. Step two for us was making sure that, okay, the programs which we are delivering, are they truly best in class? And best in class means, are you able to gain immediate value as well as, let's say, midterm to long term value out of it. I am all in for programs which have um, and which have a academic component to it. But if programs are built in a manner in which you cannot really use the learnings in your business, then there is no return on investment which is getting created, right?
Yeah.
And we didn't want that to happen. We wanted learners to come into MLU, learn something which they could then start immediately applying
Yeah.
from the next day onwards. And then the third thing which we said to ourselves was very important to have a to-do list of things, but more important is to have a not to-do list of things.
Okay.
What will we not do? Because at the end of the day, you're working with a limited set of resources. Um, you have colleagues in other group companies who are also doing great work. And therefore, you want to have a very fine balance about saying that, look, if I have these set of resources, if I have this much budget, if this is what my group companies are ready to spend on learning, how can I really help them maximize their bang for the buck?
Right.
Okay, what can create that pull factor for them? And the pull factor is created when you're delivering something which is truly unique, truly world class, truly bespoke in the way it's crafted.
Yeah.
Right.
And something that is giving them the outcomes and the results they're looking for.
Absolutely.
So ROI on training is what everyone asks for, right?
Absolutely. And it's not easy to quantify, am I getting a financial ROI out of my training program or not?
Okay. Not always, yes.
Not always. But importantly, are my learners going away thinking that, hey, these were 2 or 3 or 1 day of my life which was well spent? I came out learning something different out of it, right? One of the programs which I was always extremely passionate about was design thinking. That's a program which I personally facilitated very often. And more often than not, I had colleagues coming in and saying, hey, I'm so glad I took a design thinking lens to solve this problem, because up until now, I used to say that this particular system can do it or cannot do it, or that particular thing can or cannot be done.
Yeah.
But now I'm looking at it from a customer needs point of view.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
That in itself is a significant mindset shift which we've been able to achieve. Right? Similarly, many such programs exist in our system now, which allow our colleagues to think and reflect very deeply and say that, hey, look, this is changing my way of looking at something. Right? This is changing the way I'm able to deliver value and create value within my own organization. For me, that in itself is a very, very big win.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So it's been interesting see all those programs get delivered, and you've also had a mix of people attending those programs, right?
Correct.
So you've had programs for leadership, you've had for middle management as well as first-time managers as
Correct.
well, right? So what is the feedback that you get from these generations, and especially the Gen Z, on what is it that they really want at the workplace? Any learnings or any things you may have heard from them which you carry with you and sort of probably apply in the organization now?
See, one of the things which and let me talk about it from the lens of a program. And this is a program which I'm very passionate about, and that's around the whole self-awareness component.
Okay.
Self-awareness is a term which we use where we essentially help learners in the room understand their own patterns,
Right.
their own behaviors. We help them see the mirror about how do they impact others in the room. We help them understand why do they do what they do.
Right.
Right? And to some extent, we also then help them reflect at what could they do better.
Right.
And I have found that to be one of the most powerful programs which we've been able to create.
Okay.
We started this particular self-reflection journey for our flagship programs to begin with.
Okay.
We saw that it led to a lot of positive feedback across the group. I had colleagues who had been part of that program come up to me and say that, hey, look, I've never experienced something like this. Or these were the best 3 days of my life. Or the last time I did something so good was maybe 10 years back, 15 years back. So we said that, okay, why just limit it to one
Set
cohort
of,
of
yeah,
people?
yeah.
Can we expand on it? Right. So we started taking it towards our middle management programs and to some extent even to our junior management teams.
Right.
And resoundingly so, irrespective of generations, be it the millennials, the Gen Zs, be it our senior leaders, right? The feedback has consistently been, I'm so glad that I've been able to make this time for myself.
Right.
I got to learn a couple of things about myself which I never knew.
Yeah.
And that is a very, very heartening feeling because that means something has shifted for that person.
Yes.
They're able to see themselves a little bit more differently.
Absolutely.
They will end up being better leaders, better human beings, right? And as someone who has been in leadership development and who has been in the whole self-awareness space for a while, there can be nothing more satisfying than that.
Yeah, I think what it does is, we all are so stuck in the corporate rut that we forget to be, to be in touch with our own feelings.
Yeah,
I think programs like this pushes you to actually spend time with yourself and understand how you feel in a situation.
correct,
We normally at workplace just react.
correct,
We listen to react, not really to listen. Uh, the behavioral programs that you've done, I think that's what it has done. It has allowed you to understand how you're feeling in that situation and then respond
correct.
instead of reacting. So I think that's those are some really good programs that one should sort of like at least experience once in their lifetime. The behavioral program. So that's interesting. I also now want to talk to you, Pratik, about your current organization.
Correct.
You're in renewable energy, and you would have a fairly young organization with employees across different ages. So, what are some of the things you are doing in your current organization to keep them motivated, engaged, and happy?
Okay, we've been so the current organization I work in is Mahindra Susten as well
And
as
Mahindra Teqo.
Mahindra Teqo, right? Together, this is the renewables portfolio of the group,
Yeah.
and we've been actually doing a lot of things to drive engagement. One of the biggest advantages which I have within both Susten and Teqo is that the business leader Deepak Thakur
Okay.
is very very pro engagement, very pro creating and creating a inclusive workspace, right?
Right.
And that's allowed us to not only launch a set of policies uh, which are very supportive for our colleagues, but at the same time also drive a lot of on the ground actions which are bringing meaningful changes to our employees. Let me give you a couple of examples. Last month we launched our policies for women support. So what does that mean? Policies which are, I mean, these are a set of policies which support women at the time of maternity.
Right.
So pre-maternity, during
Right.
maternity, post-maternity. We
Right.
looked at the entire value chain and we were able to make some substantial changes out there, right?
Okay.
Pre-maternity, we were able to provide counseling services to our colleagues. We were able to support them financially with IVF treatments.
Right.
During maternity, we've been able to extend their maternity breaks.
Right.
Right, we've been able to make sure that travel to and fro from the office is actually better managed for them. Let's say if they are traveling out of the city,
Right.
then we are able to provide them a special set of services, right?
Okay.
Let's say post maternity, once they come back, building in flexibility into their work hours, depending on what works best for them, creating paternity leave policies, right?
Excellent.
Creating better quality rather paternity leave policies, right? We recently launched the Surya Shakti program, which
Okay.
is really helping women enter the renewables industry.
Okay.
And again, very powerful because of the fact from two lenses. Renewables is one of the hottest sectors in the world right now.
Absolutely.
It also has one of the lowest representation of women.
I see.
It's in the single digits.
Okay.
while Susten and Teqo are significantly ahead of that number, okay, there is greater opportunity for us to be better. Through our Surya Shakti program, through the various initiatives which we are launching, right, we are able to have a greater participation of women into that section of the workforce.
Okay.
And then the final thing is just the on the ground activities which we've been able to do. I mean, one of the things which we did recently, and this was, I did not realize that many organizations don't do this, but we actually held something which is called a family day.
Okay. Yeah.
And the rationale around that was saying that each one of us spends so much time at the workplace, right? We spend anywhere between 10 to 12 hours at the workplace.
Yeah. Let's get the family member in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Let's get the family in. Let them see where we work. Let them see who do we work with. Let them see what's the nature of our work,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I was a little hesitant at the start, thinking that, look, will families really be interested in
Yeah.
this? But I was blown away with the quality of reaction which we had out there. I had so many colleagues bring in their families, right? Both in Susten and Teqo. We actually
Yes.
made it into an entire carnival sort of
Oh,
a
lovely.
festive environment,
Yeah.
right? You had little kids running around the office, which was wonderful to see, mind you, because it's mostly a bunch of well-dressed people in office who are shuffling around the corridors, but for a change, you see little kids running
Running
around,
around. Yes.
making a lot of noise. Okay, lot of happy noise.
Yes.
You see kids playing Jenga. You are seeing huge Jenga blocks. You're seeing
Yeah. Some may have got their parents, some may
Oh
have
yeah,
got
many
their
people got their
spouses,
parents.
their
Many people
partners.
got their
Yes.
parents. I got my spouse with me.
Yeah.
I did want to get my
Kids,
I
your
did want to get my
dogs.
kids out there,
Yeah.
but maybe for next year,
Yes.
right? So when you're doing things like that, that really drives up the engagement.
Yeah.
And post that event, I had so many colleagues who came up to me and said that, hey, this was such an amazing experience, right? When are we doing the next one?
Yeah.
And I'm really looking forward to it. Now the next big thing for us is the sports day,
Yeah.
which again I have never ever been a part of, but I'm genuinely looking
Looking
forward to the
forward to
sports
it.
day, because if
Yeah.
this was family day, and let's
Do a sports
let's
day.
make sports day happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think sports is another space where everyone can engage and participate. It's just fun and it just makes you happy. I think even just watching sports, even if you don't participate as an employee, just watching it also, I think, is fun.
Oh yeah, and sports is a great equalizer.
Yeah.
On the cricket pitch, your designation doesn't matter.
Just doesn't matter. Absolutely.
When you're playing badminton or table tennis or a game of chess or football or whatever that is, your designation holds no
Zero.
value whatsoever. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's a great space to be in, because
I think the designation matters if you lose, because then the employee is very happy to say kahin to boss ko haraya.
I agree.
So that's the fun part.
No, but-
Somewhere at least I aced it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I think our bosses are very, very competitive, but at the same time,
Absolutely.
I think they're also extremely generous with
Yeah.
and extremely graceful when it comes to
Yes.
losing at a game of sports.
I would agree. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, from what I heard last year during the sports day, and I wasn't part of Susten and Teqo, but we had a lot of energy and enthusiasm and passion on the ground, where people were really competing as if it's a proper match which is going on out there, right? So
I mean,
exciting times ahead for
yeah,
us.
Absolutely. So, what is the advice you give to your team and to the younger HR folks in your organization? And what is that advice you'll give to all the HR fraternity if they want to grow into a CHR role? What are the few things that they must do?
Okay, I think it's a very important question. The one biggest piece of advice which I give all of my colleagues in HR, irrespective of me having been part of the renewables business, but also when I used to be in MLU, and also when I've been outside the Mahindra Group, is, do you understand how our business makes money?
Okay.
Okay, I'm not talking about the fact, do you know how much revenue we made last year, or what was our PAT last year? No, I'm talking about at a brass tacks level. Do you know how we generate revenue?
Right.
Do you know do you understand the effort it takes for us to generate that income?
Right.
And that I think is fundamentally something which most people tend to overlook. Okay.
Okay.
Very important to have the focus group discussions to understand the employee sentiment, the engagement levels, all of that. Okay.
Yeah.
Very important. And I do not take that away for a moment at all.
Yes.
But as HR, your job is to service the business.
Right.
You are operating with a limited resource budget, be it terms of financial resources, manpower resources, whatever that may be.
Right.
And the best value which you can add to the business is when you contribute to the revenue generating pools.
Yes.
But if you do not understand what those revenue generating pools are, then how will you deliver value?
Right.
Right? Like, I have joined Susten and Teqo just 6.5 months back.
Right.
And what I've started to do now is to go to our sites.
Okay.
My sites are what generate revenue for
Yes.
this company. Okay, I want to know where am I putting those sites up. I want to understand what is the complexity associated with that site. I
Yeah.
want to know where is the solar panel purchased from. Okay, I want to know how is the prices of solar panel changing year on year, month on month. Okay, I want to know what are the challenges my colleagues on the site are facing.
Right.
Right, because if I don't have a working site, I don't have a business.
Right.
I don't have a top line. I don't have a bottom line. I have nothing without that. So it's of the most critical importance that you as an HR leader or you as an HR professional understand your P&L and your balance sheet.
Right.
Not just the numbers, but the way it works, the
Yes.
way you generate money. When you understand that, you will have a renewed amount of respect for your business leaders, for the people who are working on the ground, for everyone who's contributing towards that.
Yeah.
And you are able to better prioritize each of your investments.
Fully agree. And I think that's what will get HR a seat on the table.
Correct.
And it's not just by asking it, but by demonstrating that you really understand how the business runs. And therefore,
Absolutely.
you sort of deserve it.
Yeah, see, we can always say that, seat on the table part of it, right? Do you know when you get a seat on the table, you are invited to sit at the table when you have something meaningful to contribute to the table,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
right?
Yes.
And your frameworks are not what's going to get you on the table. Your
Yeah.
actions are.
Yeah.
Your actions are worth something when they enable business.
Absolutely.
So start by figuring out how your business runs. Start by figuring out how your business makes money. When you know that, you will get invited to sit at the table.
Yes. You won't need to ask for it.
You won't need to ask for it.
Yeah. Excellent. Beautiful. So that's a great takeaway, Pratik. What I want to end with is we have something called quick shots. I will ask you 4 or 5 questions and you have to just respond to them with the first thing that comes to your mind on
Sure,
that.
sure.
Yeah. So, which is a leader that inspires you?
Anand Mahindra.
Okay. And why?
I got a chance to meet Anand Mahindra once.
Okay.
He wanted to know a little bit more about the work which we were doing in MLU. And I tell you, he knows how to make you feel like $1 million.
Okay.
They say that, right? That a great leader is the one who makes you feel great about yourself.
Yes.
And Anand is just that sort of a person.
Yeah.
He just makes you feel special.
Yes. And he's himself very simple actually and gives you all the credit. Yes.
Absolutely. He's an extraordinary human being. What was originally planned to be a 30-minute meeting eventually ended up being close to 90 minutes.
Yes.
And he's such a curious individual, down to earth, really wants to know the work which you're doing. He really wants to support you in every possible way out there. You step out of the meeting feeling so energized, encouraged, inspired out of it.
Okay.
Right? Come on, who else can it be, right?
Yeah, absolutely. A book that which is a must read.
Psychology of Money.
Okay, interesting. And a favorite quote.
You choose what you do not change.
Okay. And what about the meaning of happiness in your personal life?
Peace.
Okay.
Peaceful, content, healthy life.
Okay.
For me, that is the definition of happiness.
Happiness. And at workplace, what does happiness mean?
Also peace.
Yeah, okay.
Having a peaceful, wonderful, supportive, collaborative environment, where you can be yourself, where you can just show up authentically.
Yeah.
Right? For me, that is a very, very happy workplace to be in.
Fantastic. So thank you for being on the show, Pratik. It was a pleasure talking to you. And thank you for all the insights. I'm sure my viewers will all love it.
Thank you so much, Priyanka, for having me. Such a pleasure being here.